Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to this month's interview. I'm here with Julia Jerg, who's coming to us all the way from Thailand. So it's just past bedtime for her kids over there, and it's bright and sunny here in London. So thanks so much, Julia, for your time today. And I'd love to hand over to you already and tell us a little bit about what were you doing before in your old life, I guess, and what business are you building now?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, first of all. Yeah, my name is Julia, like Anna just said, and I'm on the beautiful island Koh Phangan in Thailand. And that's because I have been living the digital nomad lifestyle since 2011. And we were stuck, or we are stuck since COVID-19 has has struck the world. So luckily we weren't somewhere not so nice. So that's the perks of being, yeah, roaming remote islands. But yeah, before I started this digital nomad lifestyle, I was actually working in a communications agency back home in Germany. And I was running a team of graphic designers, editors, photographers, and just doing a bunch of different things like organizing events and helping our clients to get the communication to their clients set up, and also to their employees. So I was in the middle of managing the client's needs and what my team was supposed to do for them. And it was a great life. I mean, I was really literally having a different day every day. So I wasn't realizing that or let's put it this way, I came to a point where my body actually made me stop, because I was working too much and I was not having enough free time. So I actually had two phones. I was working also the weekends because some of the events happened then. And I was not even 30 years old, but I felt like a 50 years manager. And then I said, okay, well, something has to stop. I was getting, exhausted. And then a friend of mine, she just came back from a year, taking a sabbatical year from Mexico. And she was like, oh my God, that was the best decision ever. And then it was like this nagging voice in my head that said, what is this? People take breaks from their careers, people go somewhere else. Okay. And then, just a few weeks later, I was feeling more and more unhappy. And I decided to take a break as well. And I told people I would be back after 2 or 3 months, because that was, I mean, the maximum that I wanted to allow myself to be away from my career that I had built up so neatly. I mean, I went to university, and afterwards I was doing all those steps that you were supposed to take. And I was making good money. So I also thought I I needed to just keep on doing that. And then after I was out there, I realized that there is a life other than, the one that I knew. And I learned different lifestyle models. I saw people who would just go and follow their dreams and build, a diving center somewhere in the middle of the nicest places, where people like me before only made went on a holiday or taking vacations. And so slowly but surely my mindset changed, and it's a long process. I mean, I'm putting this in a nutshell now, but yeah, I discovered my passion for traveling. I discovered my need to breathe and do something different in life. And then luckily, former clients from the agency that I used to work for, they reached out to me saying, okay, if you're not coming back, apparently you won't come back after, I think, 6 months or so. The first one messaged me saying, okay, if you don't come back, can you then help us from the distance? And that is when I also discovered something new. I could actually work from anywhere, and people would give me a job. I mean, and I could work in my profession. That was even better, because when I decided to, by the end of the first year full-time travel, I decided I needed to find a way to make this work, right? So I also fell in love with my partner, who's today the daddy of my two sons, and yeah, that was the last tip, that I needed, the last bit that brought me into this mindset. Okay, I have to make it work out there because I don't want to go back. Because he's from Chile. We met in the middle of the desert of Chile, and he was also in travel mode back then, and we decided to keep traveling together. But obviously, my funds were running lower and lower, and I needed to find a way to make money. And so I basically did it really the long way. I mean, I didn't know back then that there was such a thing like as digital nomads. When I started, I had no idea how to create an online business, or that there's even such a thing. And I think it's not as it wasn't such a thing that it is now today. Like everyone now, if you say, "Oh, I'm trying to create my online business," oh yeah, sure, me too. But back then it was like, an online business, is that something? It was I would say it was fairly new. But still there were resources, and I worked through all of them. I read a lot of blogs. I started actually with a travel blog. That was the first step into the online world for me back then. And luckily I was obviously, since I had a background in marketing and PR, and also at the end of my time working for the agency, they just started doing a little bit of social media marketing for the clients. So I had already an entry level of all these needs that I now know that they are the basics for creating an online business, right? But then over the years, I learned a lot about blogging. I created an online presence that today I can, look back to. I created an empire around my my keywords, so to speak. Digital nomad lifestyle, full-time travel. Now, since my kids are here with me, I'm a digital nomad mom, and I have definitely social proof created. So when I fast forward today, I help people do the same thing. Like people come to me when they want to start the digital nomad lifestyle, and they start from zero. They have questions. What do they have to do? What's the short way, the shortcuts? What are the mistakes that I made, and what are the learnings that I can share with them? But then there's also people like entrepreneurs that are already on their path. They have started their online business or their freelancing career, and I help them tweak and look at their businesses from the outside, and help them how to actually optimize it and get more reach and more visibility online. And now I give you the full story without even stopping.
I don't even need to ask you any questions. We can end the interview there.
Bye. It was nice meeting you. Call me.
But let me maybe pause there, just because there are so many interesting things there, and I think there are so many parallels as well. No, that's perfect. I do the same when people ask me. You can go back to. I sometimes go back to the story when I was 3 years old, so you can go much further back. And when was this? When you began to? When did you take your 2-3 months off?
That was 2011. So
okay. So it's just so. Because I mean, we've chatted a few times. We did a Clubhouse room together. We did an interview for your podcast, funnily enough. And I'm just smiling because I didn't know the details of your story, but it's so similar to mine in that I also took 3 months off. I traveled in South America. I hadn't heard of this idea. And as you say, you begin to piece together, oh, this is possible. And it was very organic. And I had, of course, a similar marketing background to you as well, and so on. So it's amusing to me that I meet people all around the world who have such parallel experiences. But it sounds like, so you were sparked by someone else having been away, and you thought, wow, that's possible. And then, as you said, oh wow, there's remote work. People will pay me to work even when I'm on the other end of the country, on the other end of the world even. And then, of course, you have the love aspect as well, which adds another dimension too.
It was a great motivation.
Absolutely, yes, exactly. But of course it is. I mean, whether you have a partner and so on. I mean, we've talked about that before, of course, in the context of the children, but has that been a challenge? And I guess before that, because 2011, it's 10 years now. In fact, you should be
Yes.
celebrating, I guess. There should be a
Yay.
big,
Yes, there will
big
be
moment this year.
in October. It marks 10,
Wonderful.
10,
Oh,
so we'll do
amazing.
something special.
So if you can
um,
cast your way back to the 10 years, I guess, can you think of, I imagine there were some starts at the beginning, you didn't even know that you were sort of setting up a business. You were kind of doing this remote consulting work. And then I guess there've
yeah.
been a few different twists and turns along the way, as there always are. So what have been some of the challenges you've come up against?
Well, absolutely. I mean, like I said in the beginning, I also was going against my traditional belief that I could only make money back home. So I sometimes would flip back and think, oh, maybe I should, take a plane and just go back to Germany and make some money and then go out travel again. And then once I was going through that process that I don't need to be in Germany to make money, I would take on client work where I did a lot of different things like freelance writing. I did take over social media accounts. I would helping with strategies, marketing strategies. I had a I was I'd say it's not luck, I mean, but I feel lucky because I had my network was also bringing me a lot of opportunities and opened up ways to make it work. Friends who would open their own agencies and hired me as a freelancer, or clients that would recommend me to their network. So it kind of created an ongoing stream of possibilities. But then I noticed that I was still trading my time for money, and it didn't really, I mean, it felt different. Of course, it does matter where you are when you work, or when you stop work and then you open the door and you're right at the beach. Or for me, my happy place is the beach. For others, could be the mountains. But the point is, you can choose where you are, right? And that was always for me a motivation. And I say I have probably worked the same amount of time that I used to when I was back in the agency, but I did it for myself. And I look at it as a investment in myself and my personal development. And I've learned so much, not only about the world, the people out there, the different cultures, the crazy experiences that you can have, but obviously also it was an inner, like a journey inwards, and a lot of things that I probably would have never discovered if I was just being put in one place and going the traditional way. Um, so now I forgot, what was the question?
No, that's perfect. I just asked about the challenges, but you were saying, and it's interesting again, it is a bit of luck, but really that's the advantage of changing career and lifestyle when you're well into your career, rather than coming straight out of school, because you have the network, you have the skills, you're in demand, and you have the experience in order to be able to actually create a real business based on those skills, right? So I think that's a strong position to be in. And one of the questions, given that it is 10 years now, and you've started, as you said, you were trading time for money, and then you've been able to shift your business model. And I know, apologies, I've asked you this before in another setting, but what for you makes a business sustainable? How are you managing to make this lifestyle and this business work for you longer term? Not just, oh, hey, I'm going to go off for a year and then come back, as you said, and earn a normal salary in Germany, but you're really making it work longer term.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and I remember you asked me the question, and it was working in my head, because when we talked about it and you said, I mean, for you also sustainability means that you can actually spend time with your family, which is now for me has become priority number one. I don't want to, sit 8 hours locked away in a co-working space or in our apartments that we rent out when we're moving around, and then not spending time with my kids, because that's actually the beauty of this lifestyle. And that's what I would call sustainable. If you can consistently make money, enough money, so that you are able to move whenever you want to, pick the places where you want to go, and then spend enough quality time with your family, that's for me enough. I don't chase any lifetime goals that maybe most people have cars, houses, or those material things. It's really, I mean, it might sound like a cliche, but I'm really chasing experiences, and happiest when I'm just have the freedom of choosing. I'm not saying that we're going to go on for like this forever. It could be that we're settling down somewhere and might even get a house one day. Who knows? But for now, it's just it's been great, and I just love seeing my kids enjoying their life here, and especially during times like this. I really appreciate it, and I'm grateful every single day that they can roll around in the sand like little piggies. I always look at them, and then when they're just happy in the warm sand, and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm really, really just grateful. And I think, just to add on to the point before, I mean, it is a portion of luck, but it's also, I mean, at least 80% of the mindset and the openness towards being brave and embrace the change, and also don't be scared to try something new and go against the the normal, because there are voices and people's opinions that are coming towards you when you are not doing it the way other people are doing it. And that has always been fun for me in a way, because I don't know. uh,
But what have you
I
done to, has it just come naturally to you? You've been, oh, I don't care what other people think, I'm going to go with what my heart says? Or have you made sure to surround yourself with like-minded people? Have you worked with a coach yourself to sort of guide you on your choices and business and so on? What have you done to get the help you needed?
Funny enough, I've never worked with a coach, and I'm now right now at the stage where I'm deciding to work with a coach for the first time, just because I'm trying to rebrand my whole business strategy and everything, and I'm looking to to get someone to bounce back my ideas that I'm currently working on. And being a coach now for quite a few years, I obviously am convinced about the coaching itself. So I now decided to get a coach for myself. But no, I've always and I remember moments in my years when I was at school, and my mom telling me stories, obviously, because I can't really remember them myself. But she said many times teachers would just call her saying, I tell the entire class, you have to do it this way, and your daughter is always going the other way, and she's doing it the other way. And then my mom would always ask them, but is it working anyways? Is it working for her? And they said, well, yeah, but it's not the way we teach the children. And she said, well, if it works for her, let her do her way, right? So I really appreciate my mom also being supportive in that sense, because it is probably one of my unique characteristics. But I wouldn't say that I mean, I also care about other people's opinions, and it has not always been crystal clear for me. It's like I said, it's been part of the process also to have those, feelings that one day you're 100% convinced, the next day you feel like, oh, should we not go to one place and stay and do the things that other people do? So I would lie if I said it's 100% always crystal clear. But yeah, I learned, or I've learned, to listen to my gut feeling. And I'm also a bit stubborn, so when I like something, I just stick with it.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, honestly, that's one of the, I think I've learned that is one of the biggest drivers for success, being a bit stubborn, a bit persistent, tenacious, having that grit, right? And there will be ups and downs, and building that resilience is something that's going to be so critical. I love the story of you being young and doing your own way and still getting there. Unfortunately, it's the exact opposite from me. I was the good girl who did exactly as I was told. So I've had to really break away from that. And it's been tougher for me to begin to question things. But bizarrely, I feel like I found my way back to the inner child pre-school conditioning and so on. And I hope that schools are better now. I don't know, in terms of, I guess, world schooling and of course homeschooling for everybody now with COVID and so on. Do you see more possibilities? Are you seeing improvements in how or the opportunities available, I guess, to teach our children to be more
Yeah,
creative and have their own ways of doing things.
I think so. I mean, it could be that I'm really biased or conditioned by now my new environment, because I meet on a constant basis people that are in the same mindset, when we, especially here now on this island, but also before, we usually go to places where we know, where we meet travel families or
Mm.
families that are like us, digital nomad families. So when we have conversations, we are not discussing should my child go to school or not. No, it's the other way. Like, what are we going to do to make this educational process the most effective one and best for our children? So for me now, it looks like, but again, just because I'm in this bubble of the digital nomads and alternative families. So for me, it looks like there is a big movement and a great awareness of people that something has to change. And yeah, I mean, the fact that COVID has happened and is currently messing with everyone's schedules. So people are more and more, not only in the family and the educational sector, but also obviously it's revolutionizing the way people are working and thinking about their jobs. Because before we were told we are the crazy ones because we don't have the 9 to 5s that are really secure and safe, and now everyone's lost their jobs and trying to become more independent from a certain employer. And I think, yeah, 2020 was clearly a year of shifting, I think, shifting of consciousness. And I feel many people are open towards new topics and ways, and I hope this is going to be changing the world for the better.
I hope so too, both for the individuals. I think some people, of course, it's been super tough for so many people with homeschooling, with
Of course,
mental
yeah.
health, being all these things, and not to mention the physical health of COVID and so on. But I think the individuals have seen another world, a little bit like you and I. When we traveled, we realized there was another lifestyle that's possible. Suddenly, hang on, I don't have to sit in the car every morning and evening driving to
Mm.
and from the office. Someone I was interviewing last time was saying, look, I don't need to fly up to or take the train up to Manchester for a half-hour meeting. We can do
Mm.
that virtually. And likewise for the company, they begin to realize that, hey, we can let go of control a little bit, we can trust our employees and so on. So I hope and agree with you that there is a shift more broadly,
Yeah.
that more people will wake up to this kind of flexible working. And of course, I'm really deep in it too, so I feel like, of course, everyone I work with is sort of in that mindset too, but I do think it's spreading more to the normality, I suppose, if we can call it that. I
Yeah.
have to ask sort of a very logistical question, but when I was traveling a lot, I always had the experience that when I was at home, I had all this stuff and I needed
Mm.
all of it, right? The perfect makeup and the handbags and whatever.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I was away, I was like, oh, I can live out of a rucksack, it's fine. But now, again, we're actually in the process of moving with 2 kids, and I'm just, the amount of stuff, and it's,
Oh
it's
yeah.
not stuff we've even bought, it's gifts, it's charity stuff. And I'm not so worried about the us having bought things, but it's just the amount of things. So how do you
Mm.
manage that when you travel? I guess a selfish tip for me, but in general, how is it even feasible to travel with young kids and to make do?
Yeah, well, this is one of the questions that I get on a
Mm.
frequent basis, because people always think you need a lot of stuff, but it's also just a mindset thing. And to be honest, we flew to Thailand from Europe a bit over a year ago, when we thought we were only here for 2 months, and then I had a conference lined up after the 2 months here in Thailand. So we said, we're just going to fly hand luggage, right? That's all, carry on. And actually that's not even entirely true, because before we even hopped on the plane to Thailand, we decided, I should go scroll back in my Instagram feed, because I was actually announcing it after I don't know how many years of traveling with a huge backpack, and always my partner, he was complaining because he was the one carrying it. And I have to admit, you use maybe 1/3 of the things that you carry with you.
Mm.
So I announced it and said, now from now on we're only flying hand luggage. And it's such a yeah, deliberate and or how do you say
Liberating, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
liberating, yes. And you know, every time you get to a new place, there are shops. If
Yeah.
something's missing, you just buy it. So I big learning. You don't have to travel with a huge bag of diapers. There are shops where you can buy them when you get there. I mean, get a few for the road, and then you're good. And also clothes. I mean, especially if you travel to countries where it's hot and humid, no, don't take too much clothes with you, too many things that are just, you know, yeah, taking up room. And but now I have to also say that after, yeah, over a year here on the island, we've moved around on the island and changed houses and quite a bit, but we've also gathered a lot of stuff. So last time we moved, that's actually a week ago, we came to a new place here, and a friend of us, she helped us moving, and she said, "You guys, how did you do that? You came here with hand luggage. Now look at you." She even had to lend us those huge suitcases where we put our stuff. And I was like, "Hey, like you, it's a lot of gifts, a lot of people who left the island or who just passing by and say, oh, you have kids, here, there's toys." And I'm like, oh, I can't deal with more toys, but my kids obviously can. So that's how we collected a lot of stuff. Yeah, but usually you don't need much.
Yeah, just again, I look around, I'm surrounded by, you know, books and even paper. This is my study, and it's still just in this room, there's so many things. But I think, yeah, I'll go back to the Marie Kondo approach again and see if I can. I've been doing lots of eBaying and getting rid of lots of stuff, so hopefully I can. And I know what you mean, it feels amazing, doesn't it, when you don't and you realize you don't need it. So I think it's again shifting the mindset and the perception of what's required and what's and of course being able to pass it on to someone else, because what we don't want to do is just throw it away. That's always, then you feel a bit guilty that you've got it. And then I guess just financially would be the last question to ask, because I did have a really interesting interview with Jeremy Beeman last month around the difference between sort of a wealth creation growth, I'm going to create a business and I'm going to be an entrepreneur and the CEO and build an empire kind of approach, versus actually, I don't want to burn out. I want to have more time with my family. I want to be a digital nomad. So it sounds like you made a very conscious choice to have the lifestyle kind of business. I guess without having to share any numbers or anything, but, you know, how long did it take you to get it to be financially viable for you? And are you ever tempted to go off and build, like, you know, I'm going to have an office and I'm going to have a team and make it this, you know, the ambitions sort of run away with you? Are you really happy within, yes, I'm successful, I have enough to live the life I want to live, and that's my goal?
I have always loved to work. So for me, it's I'm officially, I mean, I'm guilty for being a workaholic, even though I'm now I'm capable of consciously deciding against working too much. But there is always, this approach of how can I take on another idea that could turn into a new passion project. So, but again, as long as I don't feel like it's work, I feel it's okay. And as long as I don't lose my priorities, I find it's also okay. But it's not because I want to have like a pile of dollar bills laying around, just because I'm also entertained by working and connecting with other people. So I love that. And I think so I'd say it took me a while, I guess 4 or 5 years actually, to get to that stage where I say, I want to now translate everything that I've learned in the agency, and then also from this freelancing and being now the service provider, because before I was always hiring those freelancers for my agency back then. And then I was in this position where I was knocking on doors, or where people said, can you work for us? And I was like, okay, so now I want to go back again and be the business owner and be on top of things, and decide a little bit more about my time, the project that I'm choosing, and also having it's how to say, I also like the risk of, you're in charge and your full responsibility, and yeah, it's a little bit like investing at the stock market. I guess you have to also be the type of person for this. But yeah, I'd say ever since I started that, and I created my own coaching business and everything that's related to it. Um, I don't say this is the end of my career or the final stage, but it's one next step
I'm
or
sure it
one
will evolve
episode.
again, right? We're still young, and I'm sure
Yeah,
the economic situation will evolve, and you'll have other ideas, and things will shift, and so on.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's
Oh,
part
it's
of the
too
fun
many
of it,
ideas.
right? And yeah, and the fact that you enjoy the work, and so on. As long as you enjoy it, then absolutely. And what
Yeah.
advice would you give to someone, I guess, as the final question, then, in terms of maybe they know they've bought into this life and they're already trying to make it work, and they're feeling a bit like, it's not quite working. If there's
Mm,
something that you can lend them, some of your stubbornness and grit to keep going,
mm.
or any other advice you'd like to give someone who loves the sound of what you've created in your life.
Yeah, I mean, uh, embrace the fact that it is a process, and it's a learning journey, and everyone has to find their individual story and create it, and that's the beauty of it. You can create it the way that suits you best. So I can give you all the experiences and share all the advice that I have gathered and that has worked for me. But then you still have to do the work for yourself, and apply it and translate it to your life and individual needs and situation. But for me, like I started my podcast, the Digital Nomad Mom podcast, just to get the message out, and to inspire others and say, try it at least once in your life. You know, you can always go back. Your old life will always be there and wait for you. And if you don't know how to do it, then you can read ebooks, you can take online courses, you can go with a coach. You have so many opportunities nowadays to make it work. But then put in 100% and try it, and yeah, give it. I mean, also, it's not gonna work from one day to the next. So like with any other business, look at it as at least, I'd say, six months. If you really put in the effort and everything, like 100% dedication, 6 months is a realistic time frame where you can say, okay, if I don't see any results, nothing, so no income, no connection that could lead potentially to something, then I'd say, okay, maybe it's not for you. Maybe you should go reevaluate your situation. But I doubt it. I mean, if you're really passionate about this, and if you really taste it, right, then I'd say you can make it work in 3 to 6 months. Something is going to happen and changing in your life. And of course, like I should say, if you are in the position to becoming financially sustainable first, like don't start traveling, even though I know people who had like $300 in their account, bought their one-way ticket and made it happen too. It's possible, but it's crazy, and it's maybe the difficult way to do it. So have some financial backup there, because in case you don't generate anything, and yeah, you should be able to come back and have some sort of safety net there. That's the ideal way. But then, like I said, there's so many stories that show that it's possible either way.
Yeah, and there's so many nuggets there. I think, as you said, it is your definition of success, as I call it, in terms of what you want, because we can all share our experiences, but ultimately you have to decide what you want to do. You have to decide what risk level you're willing to take on. And
Yeah.
as you've said, I know lots of people who have headed off into the sunset and made it work somehow. It's taken much longer perhaps, or they've been lucky, or as you
Yeah.
said, actually, clients go, oh, actually Julia's not coming back, so we'd better pay her, which could be you're forcing your clients to make it work for you, right? But they could also say, no, we're going to work with somebody else. So there's so many options here. But I think the most important thing is that the how can get figured out, right? So as you said, just commit to it, decide, I'm going to do this for 6 months, I'm going to try to do this for a year. And I'm sure, exactly as you said, it's very unlikely, I could pretty much guarantee that you will have some kind of result, and you'll get bitten by the bug and want to keep
Yes.
going, right? And then one opportunity leads to another, and so on. So it always takes longer than we think. But worst case, right, you've had a beautiful year off,
Mm.
and you can come back to another interesting job. But yeah, some
Yeah,
really
maybe
important insights there.
maybe we should design a label that says warning, this could become addictive or something. It could really change your life. Are you ready for this?
Well, but
Because
that's it.
yes.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you're looking. I think I wrote an article soon after I'd left my job about the sort of. I said you're looking out on the world of uncertainty and
Mm,
no money and so on, and you're in this position. You think you're all safe and secure and so on, but actually, as
mm,
we've just said, thanks to COVID, but also thanks to a number of different factors, we're not that safe in that job. And once you're
yeah,
outside, you have a totally different perspective and view of everything, and suddenly it's 100% possibilities, and it doesn't feel risky anymore because you meet other people doing the same thing, you get opportunities, and you're just on such a different level. You're just looking at things from a different way. So it is that initial leap that's so tough, but then also, unfortunately, it is that persistence and grit and
persistence.
so on,
Yeah.
right after you've left the initial peak of enthusiasm. So I think
Mm,
being stubborn and having that some of the personality traits that you've outlined can really help you, but then working with somebody, finding other people doing this similar things will really help as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, or just if you grab on someone who's a leading role model in this field, and you can just aim towards their goals and chase it after, that also helps a lot. If someone can inspire you, if there's someone out there, and that could be one way to do it, and just copy the system and follow along. You don't have to
Sometimes a good
invent.
way to start, right? No, you
Yeah,
don't have to amend it. And by now, so many people have done so many different things that there's bound to be
yeah,
someone who's done more or less, and you can start, and then you can go off on your
exactly.
own path after that if you'd like. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
So Julia, thank you so much for sharing. Again, I'm quite amused and not surprised that we share so many parallels there in our story. Congratulations on your 10 years. Looking forward to the celebration in October, and I hope you can
Thank you.
travel again very, very soon. But I'm glad to hear that you've been enjoying your time in Thailand in the meantime. Where can people find, so I'll of course link to your podcast, but if you could tell us again, where can we find out more about you, your website, your favorite social channel, and let us
Sure.
know how to find you.
Sure. So my website is jjetter.com. And on social media, you can find me on all the possible channels, platforms with jjetter. But then on Clubhouse, you'll find me with my first name and last name. So I've discovered a new love with Clubhouse. And yeah, I'd love to connect with other people, because I find it a really cool way to connect with others.
Absolutely. No, we'll put that in the link as well. It's been a great
Perfect.
place to meet with people. Yeah, again,
Yeah.
a different level of connection and fun. It'll be interesting to see where that goes, I guess, too, after COVID, if it continues or if it's. I did
I'd
see that
say.
Twitter has started doing spaces, and I'm sure as ever
Mhm.
the big giants are going to be copying the platform, but they have had a year now to get off the ground, I guess. Or so yeah, we'll see. We're interesting, but I'm glad you're having
Yeah.
fun there, and hopefully people can join your next room when you're there, and likewise for me too. So thanks so much, Julie. I've really enjoyed
Yeah.
connecting with you over the last few weeks, and I look forward to staying in touch with you too.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.